again, it's not a black and white world for me. In this world, we have sociopaths and narcissists and other sorts of unhealthy mental states that aren't any fault of their own. They were genetically born that way. Some people think every day about killing people, and most of us don't think at all about it. But there has to be boundaries in our society to prevent unhealthy people from hurting others. Now,
but you
getting
say
into like the, please.
Can I just ask this question about that? Because you talk
Yeah.
about things being healthy, right? And the standard by which you're judging health, or, you know, really what you're saying is that these people are, in a sense, immoral because unhealthy, immoral, it's kind of the same thing. They're not contributing to this goal of universal human flourishing, right?
Mhm.
And now, but like you said before, how do you measure the worth of someone? Would you grant that those kind of people, that you can actually judge the worth of a person based on how much they contribute to a certain goal for humanity?
Yeah, but now you're into the space where we go. Some people are have physical disabilities or mental disabilities, and they can't contribute. And I'm going to promote a society. In my mind, what I would want to promote is a society that cares after the folks who aren't as able to contribute as those who are, have an IQ of 150 and are bodybuilders.
But
Um,
isn't that similar to the, I mean, that's kind of like, and again, I'm just so everyone knows, like, I'm trying to push the atheist
yeah.
sort of logic to where I'm trying to figure out where it goes, because if you're saying that we are no different than horses and you want to breed the best horses, well, then the horses that have the disabilities and the problems and don't contribute to the betterment of the horse herd, you need to, eugenics makes sense. Eugenics is just a human form of
Yeah.
biologically or controlled biological reproduction, or at least discouraging the reproduction of inferior members of a herd.
Yeah. What you're trying to do is pinpoint this idea that I'm subjectively choosing what is a good morality. And that only with God are we actually able to ensure that we have a morality that we know is good. But that argument
Well, I
is
wouldn't, real
deep.
quick, just to, so we can steel man here, because
Please,
my
please,
argument, if I were going to make the argument, I would make this argument. I would say
please.
that, Bill, if you grew up in Rome, you'd have a totally different moral system. If you grew up
Mhm.
in ancient Aztec society, would. Your
Totally.
moral view that you have is the product of the
Totally.
modern culture that you're a part of. And the modern
Totally.
culture that you're a part of is the product of a Judeo-Christian ethic, which
Yeah.
transformed Western society's intellectual way that they view the world, to where now everyone in Western society believes in universal human dignity, which is a
Yeah.
total anomaly in history and scientifically makes no sense, because biologically, like, inferior and superior is the name of the game in biological reproduction.
Okay. All right. So I don't disagree. Uh, so it seems as though what you're saying is that Christianity is the impetus that moved us into this space of valuing in the individual. So again, I'm super grateful for the tools of the past that were better than the tools we had previously. That has nothing to do with whether in this moment that's still the most effective tool to keep moving the needle. When you say, "Hey, Bill, how do you know that you're picking a morality that's better?" Well, the same problem exists for Jacob, which is that even though you come from a religious heritage and you believe in it, your moral code is still just as full of good and bad. And maybe because it's a closed loop system and people aren't allowed to criticize from within, maybe it's actually harder to get rid of bad behavior. And so I'm not suggesting that, hey, I've got it all figured out. What I think, though, is that it's actually worse to think that you're in the true system and that God is leading your system and that your moral code is better than the outsiders and your moral code can't quite be questioned exactly. I think that's even worse than the nuance of what I'm saying, which is like, hey, I don't know that I've got this down perfectly, but the fact that I'm in an open loop system where people can criticize my points of view and they don't get thrown out, the chances are better that we're going to figure out how to treat each other better in that sort of system, still with flaws.
Mhm.
Much better than being inside a religious system where you're like, nope, God's here. We've got the moral code. We know right from wrong, but nobody can quite question it exactly. Otherwise, they suddenly become from an insider to an outsider.
Yeah, no, and I think that that on a bigger level, I'm interested in the moral truth, right? Because
Yeah, and I don't think that's real. I think once you discard God, the idea of objective, exact truth is a myth on its own.
would you say that it's true but would you agree that it's a moral truth that we should not, do unnecessary harm to others? Like, do you believe that it's a moral truth that you should not be a racist? Like, is it true to say it's wrong to be a racist? Is that a true statement?
Absolutely, but again, it's also subjective. I'm also deciding inside myself that that's true, and there are members of the KKK, for instance, who would completely disagree with that, and they have their own reasoning for that.
Yeah, but you would certainly
Sure.
say that they're wrong. Like, not just
Sure.
that
So,
they.
and you would,
I
yeah,
mean,
sure.
if I said that, it's one thing for me to say I like Captain Crunch and you like Cheerios. It's another
Yeah.
thing, neither one of us are right. These are just statements of preference. When you're saying that being a racist is wrong, it doesn't matter if someone thinks that it's right. They are incorrect. They are contrary to the moral truth when they do that. And so if you say that there's no such thing as moral truth, then it leads me to the point where I go, well, on what grounds are you condemning the racist? Except for to say, I prefer X, you prefer Y. And again, it like moral language is meant to convey to someone that they're violating a standard that they're obligated to follow for some reason.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button so my future videos show up on your feed. Also, if you or someone that you know has benefited from the content here on Thoughtful Faith, please consider becoming a channel donor or volunteer by visiting my new website, thoughtfulfaith.org, and clicking on the Get Involved page.